All right, we're back. We're gonna try this one more time. Let's see if Barrett comes on here. Huh. Who here watched the video, the LGBTQIA plus video for 19For20? Did you guys all watch? It was so interesting doing all that research too. I learned quite a bit as well. Let me see if I can find her. Okay, I try this again. I see you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you.
Oh, look at
I'm just
your face.
realizing in this moment just how much I underestimated how much I miss you.
I miss you so much.
Oh, how are you? This was so fun. This week was so fun. We got so many awesome comments and views on this thing. It's great
I
to have the
know.
conversation going.
I know. I was so glad, honestly, because I know that this was like a little bit of just a slight departure. You know, we've been talking
Hmm.
about social justice issues, and while we've included LGBT topics just sort of tangentially, we didn't really get a chance to like dig into it. So I would just like to say for the people watching, Jake actually, after I asked him to be a part of it, he was so excited, he was willing, and then he came to me and asked me if he
Hmm.
could do this topic. And I was so glad. I was so glad because it wasn't that we had intentionally left it out, but we were trying to sort of find an angle in, but we also
Hmm.
wanted someone in the community to say something about it and to have that be their topic, so it didn't feel like we were speaking for people whose community we weren't a part of. I'm speaking specifically about me and Jason. I was so glad you asked, and I'm so glad we got the chance to do this topic because
Yes,
it's
me
so
too.
important and it is intersectional. It
Hmm.
includes conversation about other minorities and how these identities intersect with each other. But also, I think importantly and necessarily, we got to put queer lives like in the forefront and in the spotlight for at least a week because it's well earned and necessary.
Totally,
So I'm so
totally.
glad. Thank you for asking. And I was hoping, I mean, obviously I'll chime in, but I was going to say, I would love for you to take the lead on this week, Jake, because,
Yeah,
you know, this
sure. I
is,
mean, it's a huge topic, and
I'm a
like you
visitor
said,
here.
no, come on. It's a huge topic, and like you said, I was very interested in doing it, especially after Danielle did intersectionality and taught us a bunch about that. And I just think it's interesting because a lot of times when people talk about LGBTQIA plus rights or queer rights or queer issues, we forget that a lot of people aren't even familiar with what all those letters mean. So I thought, oh, this would be a perfect jumping off point to just get a little bit more clarity on that. So yeah, it was interesting. It was really interesting, and it was good to see a lot of people's questions on it too, because it's a lot of questions that I've had. And to be honest, I think that the queer community is so big, as I said in the video, and there's so many different facets of it that it is very easy to get confused or to not feel like you have the information, and so then you're afraid to talk about it. And I know those feelings because I also have those feelings. So it's been interesting to see people talk about it. But
Yeah.
was there anything that you learned from the video that you didn't know before, or that you learned more about?
Yeah. I mean, I found the whole conversation to be necessary. You know, one thing that came up for me and that some people commented on was the A standing for ally, or the
Hmm.
A standing for asexual or ally. And that was such an interesting topic because my relationship to the queer community started when I was young. My mom's a lesbian, and my parents, my mom and my dad, were married at a certain point. But when she came out, I had two moms. You know,
Wow, I had no idea. I don't think I knew
shortly
that.
afterward. Yeah. So I grew up with my mother, and my father was a part of my life, and I'm very lucky. But no, but I had four parents. I had three moms and one dad. So I a lot of people checking on me. But uh yeah, so growing up with a lesbian mom, like she took me to all of, I was going to pride parades when I was in first and second grade. Like but the acronyms as I learned them have changed, because
Hmm.
I do remember learning and thinking that the A stood for ally, because,
Hmm.
and and not that I was necessarily in that brain space as much anymore, but there is this sort of historical shift that's happened, in the last however many years since I was that age, I guess 20 almost, but like, or a little more. And like, there is a broader understanding now, and a necessarily broader understanding now, in order to honor everyone's identities, that it's just become so important to respect other people and to understand that. And so that was a really interesting um, thing that I felt like I learned, that there was
Hmm.
this dual meaning for one, or even maybe more of the letters, that you might have understood at some point or in one way, and there is actually a different there's a
Totally.
different understanding, a more accurate understanding of that.
And it was also super interesting to see the amount of people that actually took offense or were not super excited that ally was included as part of the A definition, because that's something that I see in the queer community often, is this idea of, do we include allies? Do we include non-queer cisgender people in our community, and specifically in our spaces that are so sacred to us, that we've carved out and had to carve out
Mhm.
in this society so that we could feel safe. And so there's many different sides to this issue about whether or not people should be included in the acronym, or if the A should even stand for ally or not. And so it honestly got me thinking even more about it, because I think I've always been in this idea of really trying to embrace inclusivity and trying to um, allow people to be a part of something if they truly want to. And so when I heard as many people have pushed back as they did on this video, it caused me to start thinking a little bit more about it. And um, part of me, I think I can see both sides of it. And I think we're talking about two very different issues. And I think one of them is, who do we allow in our community? Who do we say is part of the queer community? But then also, who do we allow to fight with us? And who do we need in order to make change? And I think when we're talking about that second idea, I think we lose a lot if we don't include people that aren't queer. And so
Mm.
I'm not talking about saying that allies are part of the queer community, because even in that definition that I posed to you guys, the first thing that the definition says is, an ally is a person who is not in the queer community, but someone that supports us and actively promotes equality in a variety of ways. So I think it's important to distinguish that it's not like, the parent of a gay person or a gay person's friend. It's somebody who is actively putting themselves on the line and actively fighting for equality with us. And I think if someone has the courage to march beside us, that they have a place within our community, specifically when it comes to legislation, specifically when it comes to moving the dial forward for LGBTQIA rights. We need straight people. Um, on the flip side of that, I do understand this idea of um, really making it specifically known that straight people are not members of the queer community. We don't have that same shared trauma. I think whenever we're talking about LGBTQIA oppression, we're not talking about allies. You know what I mean? We're talking about
Yes.
the people
Yeah.
who are actively oppressed. And I think that it's those two topics that sort of come together a lot and make people feel fired up about it. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to say about allies is that there's something so interesting about the queer community, which is that it's a very specific minority where if you are in that minority, you oftentimes don't grow up with other people that are in that minority supporting you. And so for a long time, you're sort of out there on an island on your own, and it can cause a lot of fear, rightfully so, and it can cause a lot of anger, rightfully so, to
Yeah.
people that are not a part of that community. And I have that fear and that anger. But it was people within that community, the straight community, that gave me the first spaces that I felt fully able to be myself. You know, like the first person that I came out to was my best friend when we were seniors. And she was the one that was able to hold this thing that I couldn't hold anymore. She could hold it for me and allow me to feel safe. And she's not part of the queer community. She's a straight girl. And it makes it difficult for me to say that she doesn't have a place to stand beside me and fight for my rights, because I know she fights tooth and nail for those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly can't identify, but where I think I was that girl for
Yeah.
for at least one person, maybe more, but also because I came from a gay home, you know, that was part of my life. So the first friend I had who came out to me, who at one point, you know, middle school boyfriend, right? Like it was like we were best friends and we didn't know what to call each other other than, I guess you're my boyfriend now and you're my girlfriend and that's great. But like, you know, like it was a place where I think he felt comfortable after that phase had passed, you know, to be exactly who and how he wanted to be. And even, you know, it's interesting just from my perspective, coming from having a gay mom and growing up in that environment, it made me feel very open. Like I actually had sort of the opposite experience where I thought I first had crushes on boys and then I was like, should I have a crush on a girl? Like it was part of the sort of,
It was
when
an
I was
option
going
for
through
you.
puberty, it was
It was an
absolutely an
option that you
option.
had seen painted by
It
people
didn't,
around you. And a
yeah,
lot of
it
people
didn't
don't see that.
feel
Yeah.
strange. It didn't feel new. It felt like, well, this should be an absolute, like, this is a viable option for my sexuality as I come into it. Do I think that girl's cute? Like, you know, I wasn't ashamed of like questioning myself in that way, only because I came from a home that was accepting and made it okay to talk about that stuff. So and about your sexuality and about how you experience, you know, how I was experiencing my like newfound, you know, life as I got older. But it is so interesting how as an ally of the community, I don't want to claim a place, but I do love and relish being included because I want to understand the things that I'm missing, you know? So it's almost like we'll be right outside the door standing guard, like feed us information so we can,
and supporting us
easily...
and fighting with us, because frankly, there are not enough people that identify as part of the community to vastly affect a vote. You know what I mean? We need straight people to help us vote in laws and bills that protect us and that will give us equal rights. And so I do think it's very important to maintain those relationships and really give credit where credit is due. And that is to people who are actively, people like you, you know, who are actively trying to understand and fight with us.
You know, what was so interesting, sorry to interrupt there. I
No,
saw
yeah.
someone earlier in the comments say something about how for trans people, for example, there are queer people who aren't trans, right? So you also,
Mhm.
there are they can be allies
This
to
is
the trans
literally this
community.
is
So
literally
there's this,
another point. Yeah, this is literally another point that I had written down because when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about just that. Each one of these letters um, really paints a picture of a different part of the queer community, and you can fall under
mm,
multiple ones of these letters. You can fall under one of these letters. You can feel like you don't fall under any of them, but that you still are part of the community, you know, that you're in that plus area. And just because we're part of the same acronym, that doesn't mean I have any idea what a trans person has gone through or what a trans person is going through. But just like you're saying, I consider myself an ally to trans people because I do try to put myself in spaces where I can actively fight for equality for trans people and
mm-hmm.
where I actively can try to understand what a trans person is going through. And so while this definition that we posed is specific to probably, you know, straight or cisgender allies, ally can mean anything. And it's one of the reasons why I also felt it was important to just define these words because
Yeah.
the amount of people that commented that didn't love the fact that ally was part of this conversation, there were so many people that started to understand, you know what? I am an ally, and that gives me an identity and the courage to actually put my shoulder behind fighting for this
Hmm.
community. You know what I mean? Because I think there's a lot of straight people that feel like, oh yeah, I love gay people, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. And it's like, you are an ally. Be an active ally. It's um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit of the feeling. I don't know if this is a bad thing to relate it to, but it's a little bit of when I personally learned the word anti-racist this year, because I've always thought about racism as like something that I wasn't. And I learned a lot this year about like, oh no, we are racist. It's putting your shoulder behind being anti-racist
Yeah.
that is the intention, right? Or that's the driving force behind this thing. And in a similar way, I mean, they're very different, but in a similar way, it's not the same to just like love gay people or love queer people.
Or
If you,
queer
if
culture.
yes, or queer culture, if you want to be an ally, be an ally. And if you have the courage and the vulnerability to say you're an ally and truly mean it, then as far as I'm concerned, you're welcome in my community. Maybe not all of our spaces, but you're welcome in our community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or I guess
Absolutely.
I don't want to say
Yeah.
spaces because I like love it when straight people come to gay spaces with me. But more so, um, in a similar way, I think allies should do a lot of listening before they speak. You know what I mean? That sort of thing too. In the way that you have
Yeah.
listened for your whole life. You know what I mean? To your mom and
Yeah.
to your friends and all of that.
A few episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race does not an ally
No,
make.
does not cut it. Oh, also, I was going to talk about that. I love how this has literally become like the ally talk, which maybe is important because, you
Well,
know,
no, and I actually don't think it should, but I want
but I
I'm
kind of love
listening to
it
you.
because you're an ally and I'm part of the queer community. But it's so funny that you say RuPaul's Drag Race because I'm literally watching it right now. I'm going to do like a quick boom, RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm watching the AOC episode where
Oh yeah.
AOC comes and is a judge. And I mean, Homegirl is like the biggest ally we have right now. And I think it's just so important to understand that people like her are really, really pioneers for this community. That doesn't mean she's in the community, but boy, is she effective and boy, is she needed. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, absolutely. You would have to have like, I mean, the legislation and all and the protections
yeah.
have to remain in place, and we're at such a and so anyone who can get on the train needs to get on the train. You know, it's
Yeah.
because it's leaving.
Yeah.
And
We have
like,
lost a lot of
well, we've already lost so much. Absolutely.
equality
Yeah.
and rights this year. The amount that has happened with this past presidency has been insane, and it's been massive steps back for the queer community. And so I think it's so important to get out there and vote and try to bring people into office that will support us and push the dial forward for us.
Yeah. Can I ask, how has your understanding of intersectionality changed over the past few months?
I mean, I think it's been, I don't know how it's changed, but I do need to sort of cop to the fact that it has been awoken or awakened or woken up, whatever the word is, because
You woke it?
yeah, I have woken up. The because I think, and I think maybe it's also because we live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, or maybe not me, it's not even living in Los Angeles. I think it's because we have surrounded ourselves by people and friends who are really inclusive and open to new ideas and excited about differences and excited about conversation and debate and learning. And so I think sometimes it's very easy to forget that there's like an immense amount of work to be done, and that things that don't feel like a problem with your direct friends are a massive problem throughout the world. And so I think that the events that have happened this year and the years leading up to this year have really reinvigorated this idea in me that there's a lot of work to be done internally and externally when it comes to popular opinion and voting. And so when it comes to intersectionality, I have fully stepped into the queer community only within the past like couple of years. You know what I mean? I was out to my friends, I was out to my family and all of that, but I wasn't doing as much in the queer community as I have been in the last couple of years. And I think it's been really interesting to see how intersectionality in the queer community is so easily forgotten, and how much power gay, white, cisgender men have. And me being that, it's really easy to forget. And so I've tried to take a step back here and really realize the huge issues within the queer community, especially, that affect intersectionality. For example, like the 29 transgender people or non-gender conforming people that have been murdered this year so far. And that number could be rising, you know what I mean? We don't know. And
Yeah.
Most of those people are Black or Latinx. And so we all need to come together and really protect people who fall under that sort of like intersectional field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Words are difficult.
Yeah. I know.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I think you're so right. I think that it's such it's created like a really, I'm hopeful that it's creating a very impactful dialogue within both the Black community and the Latinx community and the queer community, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, this is a place where we can all get on board.
Yep.
We should all get on board.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're saying all Black lives matter, that means all Black lives. That means Black trans lives. That means like, if Black queer lives, we cannot let that go.
Totally.
And that as, as people from different marginalized communities, all we can do is support each other and provide the strong foundation for each other to stand on when we need each other.
Totally.
We can't let each other sink down.
Yeah. And I think that I think there's also something interesting about like I find sometimes if you're a person that is in a minority group, sometimes you feel like you have like a an inability to feel or to like cause oppression. You know what I mean? Or something
Yeah.
like if you're in the gay, like the queer community, you have an inability to be racist. And it's like that's fully
Hmm.
not true. We know this. Like and and vice versa, and all other different types of minorities. You know what I mean?
Or
It's like,
yeah, yeah, or transphobic or whatever. There's
yeah,
it's
even
rampant.
like homophobia in the gay community. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Hmm.
um, so I think we're being given a time right now to really look at things that we have um, decided not to look at because it's easier not to look at. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I respect
but I'm
anyone
glad.
who's willing to look at it.
Yeah, let's look at the underside of the rock, you know?
Yeah, totally. Um,
Should we see if anyone has any questions?
yeah, totally. You look at questions, and I'm going to explain the three places that I use to cite information because I know a lot of people were asking about that. But you look
Oh,
for
good, good, good.
questions.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yes,
will look for some questions relating to this topic, not to Grey's Anatomy or Station 19.
which we are very excited about, but we're more
We
excited
love
about
it.
this. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so a lot of you were wondering about the three organizations that I use a lot of sources to get information from, and they're three incredible organizations. One is GLAAD, and that stands for the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. It's this huge organization that started in 1985, and they started in response to the defamatory and sensationalized coverage of HIV and AIDS. And so they basically um, are this huge organization that deals with journalism and even shows like Grey's and Station 19 to really make sure that the narrative we're pushing forward is not defamatory to queer people and doesn't like perpetuate stereotypes. The other one is the HRC, which is the Human Rights Campaign. They started in 1980, and they are an organization that fight for equal rights, and they focus in legislation, so all about laws and getting people in office that will fight for us. And then the last one was the Trevor Project, which is this incredible organization. They're a 24-hour hotline that focuses on crisis intervention and suicide prevention services for queer youth under 25. And it's a 24-hour hotline. So if you ever need any help, you can call them and they will offer that for you. And yeah.
Love that.
Did we have any
All right.
questions? Do we see questions?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Great.
A few were about hard questions, I think. But
Okay.
how would you
If I don't know, I'll say I don't know and we can research it all together. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's great too.
good one. How would you advise someone who who was afraid to come out to their family if they knew how their family felt about the community?
Yeah. Here's what my heart says. And my heart says that I would love for you to understand that you've already done the hardest thing that there possibly is, and that's coming out to yourself. And that's such a big step. And sometimes that step is enough for you if you know that you're in a place that doesn't feel safe. And I also need you to know that you will find people that love you for you, and you will find a space that is safe for you to be your full self in. And I'm making an assumption that maybe this person who asked the question is young and living with family, and that is a huge thing. And if you don't feel safe, there's places that can help you, like the Trevor Project. You can call them. They can give you some really good advice specific to your situation. Also, just take so much pride in the fact that you are being true to yourself and that you have yourself, and know that you will find people outside of your family that will love you. And then your family, hopefully, I hope, will come around.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, don't put yourself in a situation if you feel like it's going to be dangerous, because there are people that it won't be dangerous around.
Awesome. Thank you, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
I'll answer this question. There was a couple about what it was like growing up with two moms and if I faced any sort of, I think, discrimination as a
Yeah,
result.
that's so interesting.
I, the only story, well, yes, I did. It was a bummer. And when I was very young, my moms got together when I was in like first or second grade. And then it wasn't until probably third grade. And again, I might not have known sometimes when there was stuff happening sort of behind the scenes with parents that I wasn't aware of. But I remember I think the first moment and the most difficult moment that I experienced, which I feel lucky to say, was when I was a kid, probably third grade. I think it was third grade, because it was my first year living in Chicago. And I didn't think that having two moms was anything to be ashamed of. I didn't even clock it. I didn't give a shit, you know, but,
Good.
There was a girl I went to school with who we got into some, playground dispute. And she said, I'm going to tell everyone your mom's gay. And that I still believe was probably the worst. Like, that was the moment when that like got into my head as a young child, that this is something I should hide, that this is something I should be ashamed of.
That's huge. Well, because that child posed it as a punishment, like as if that should be a punishment.
Right. It was a threat, you know?
Yeah.
And so that sort of started a kind of moment where I didn't know how to feel about it. I was never ashamed. I loved my moms. I was close to both of them, but I obviously, of course they were my parents, but it was confusing. And it took a while for me to start feeling like this is not something that I need to hide. This isn't something, and I can't hide it. I might have one mom pick me up one day and the other pick me up another day. And yes, I have a biological mom. Of course, the joke was always that people didn't know how they did that because my stepmom is Black and my biological mom's white. And so they thought that they had somehow created a baby. And I was like, no, it's not that complicated. But, for the most part, it was an amazing childhood that opened my eyes up to a million things that I would never have experienced if I grew up in a family that was slightly more quote unquote traditional.
Right.
And so I've never been sad about it for a minute.
Did you ever have like a frank conversation? I know you were young when your moms first got together, but did you ever have a frank conversation with them when you got older, or was it always something that was just like known and talked about? Like, was there ever any?
Yeah, I don't think there was. I think the most frank conversation probably happened when I asked my mom, this is probably how you know maybe you're not, but I asked my mom if I was bisexual. And she's like, I don't know.
You're like, maybe if I have to ask my mom, I might not be.
Yeah, she would probably know. But I was like, she goes, I don't know, honey. Are you? And I was like, I don't know, probably not. Like, it was just, but it made way for that kind of conversation, which is the gift that I don't think I will ever be able to return until I have a kid myself, where you're like, you want to be able to have those conversations with your kids.
I hope that our kids are like open enough to ask that stuff and to,
right?
I mean, that's incredible.
There was another question that I think actually is a great way to sort of finish off, and then it'll lead us into sort of what next week's topic is, which is representation. And there were a couple questions about how we feel about, and I would ask you how you feel about representation on television or non-queer people playing queer roles, which I know can happen in you can play a gay character or a trans character, and those are very different things. So, or maybe they're not. How do you feel about it?
That is a huge question, because Yes, because there's a lot of feelings about it. And part of me believes when it comes to sexuality, which is something that can be very, very fluid and is less of like a, um, well, it's not a gender identity. Do you know what I mean? So when we're talking about
Mhm.
sexual orientation, I do feel like um, people should be able to, actors should be able to play different sexual orientations than what they are. I would love to continue playing straight people in my career. I've seen really great performances by non-queer people playing queer people. The issue comes, though, where I think it's more of a responsibility to the creatives and the tastemakers and the people who are casting and the people who are choosing the actors that play these roles. Um, I think that we as an artistic community need to, you know, for lack of a better term, throw the net a little bit wider and search a little bit harder for people who are not given the opportunities to act as much as other people are. Um, for example, you know, an argument that I hear a lot of times with, you know, gay people or trans people is that there's not enough trained actors in any given city to like the pool is not very big, and so what are we supposed to do? Not, you know, um, hire someone that is not trained or whatever? And the answer is yes. I do think that you do, because in 10 years, you're going to have kids who are growing up who see these people on TV and say, oh, shoot, you know what? That person's like me. They're on TV. It's a possibility now. So I'm going to go get
Mhm.
trained and I'm going to be an actor. You know what I mean? When I was growing up, there was a huge part of me that believed that if I was an out gay person, I couldn't be on television. I just
Yeah.
couldn't do it because there were not gay actors on television that were out. There were some actors, you know, like Ellen DeGeneres, who came out after she was on TV, and then her sitcom got canceled, or other people that came out and their careers just sort of started fizzling, and so there was never this like big giant sign in the sky that says if you want to do this you can do it. And it took a little bit of
Mhm.
delusion and narcissism for me to even think that it was a possibility, you know what I mean? And it's something that
Yeah.
actually caused me to stay in the closet a lot longer than I should
Yeah.
have, because I was like, if I want to be an actor I need to stay in the closet. But I think when we cast gay people as gay roles and queer and trans people in trans roles, um, we give, you know, that trans girl in Illinois someone to look up to, and we give them this option that they never thought they possibly had. Do you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think it's tricky because I would love it if gay roles were played by gay people. Anytime I see a new gay role come on TV, I always wonder, oh, is that person gay? How amazing would it be to all the young people seeing this
Yeah.
that they're gay? You know what I mean? That's not to say that I don't believe a trained actor can, you know, go inside themselves and play a gay person if they're not a gay person.
Mhm.
I think that it's our opportunity as the people putting people in jobs to really search hard and
Yeah.
um, give people the representation that they need, you know?
Yeah. Cast that net wide.
Yeah.
'Cause how invaluable is it? I mean, it's so amazing to watch the to allow a person who has experienced their life within a marginalized community represent that community truthfully
Yeah.
and without having to go through the stuff that we go through as actors to say,
Mm-hmm.
you know, draw on learned experiences or whatever to like, oh, recreate this emotion, or, you know, we all have to do it, but it's just there is an honesty and a truthfulness that people have the opportunity to witness
Yeah.
when you take the time to find that. And again, like you said, it's not to say that there's not value in also allow training actors well enough, or you are working with actors who are going there because it's just another person, you know, and
Right.
we should be able to do that. But it's, I think there are some things that you can't coach
Right.
and you can't teach.
Well,
And
and
I
it's a
think,
bit of a double standard, I think, when you say,
yeah,
I don't necessarily believe in it. Like, I don't think that this is a good argument, but I hear people argue, oh, well, if you say that only gay people can play gay roles, then you now are eliminating the
hold
idea
on,
that a
Jake, you
gay,
broke up.
oh, can you hear me?
What'd you say when you hear people what?
I was saying I don't think that, yeah, I was saying I don't think that this is a good argument that people say sometimes, but when people say that,
Oh, yeah.
oh, if gay people, could you hear that? Sorry, I think we're breaking up a little bit. Oh no.
Wait, Jake.
Can you hear me?
No, you just unfroze. Okay,
Oh,
go again.
okay. So I was just saying that I don't necessarily agree with this argument, this sort of double standard argument about like, oh, if gay people can only play gay, or if straight people can't play gay roles, then gay
Yeah,
people
go
can't play
again.
straight roles. I think that that's
If when
that
you say,
like that's a
that's what I heard.
weird. Oh no, we're losing it, aren't we? Have we lost it?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Everybody, can you hear us? Okay, we're gonna try this one more time here. Barrett, tell me if you're on here. Anyone see Barrett? Ah, there she is. See if this works. Hey,
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what happened there, but that was
That's
pretty
okay.
nuts. So,
It's not the first time with for me. I do think that I have like a crazy Wi-Fi situation there.
I
It
think
happened
I
like
do too,
3 times
though.
with Brett. I
Oh
like tried
gosh.
to do I tried I had to do a second live with him because it just was like a shit show.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, I guess just to finish that point, I do think
Yeah.
it's like a very murky subject. We were talking about like gay people playing gay roles and straight people playing straight roles, and I do think that there's this like double standard argument that goes on from people that I don't necessarily agree with, which is that okay, if straight people can't play gay roles, then gay people can't play straight roles, and I can't get my shoulder behind that
Yeah.
because of the opportunity that straight
Yes.
people are given. And that's not even just like the opportunity by casting people, but it's like the opportunity that a straight child is given in terms of believing that they could do what they want to do. You know, a lot of straight people, queer people, people of minorities grow up in a world where they don't even believe that that's possible. And so that's why I do feel like we have a responsibility once we're in a powerful position in this entertainment industry to give people an opportunity, not just for that individual person, but for all the people that look up to them that now say, oh, you know what, um, I see someone that has done it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I could have seen someone like myself on Grey's when I was a teenager, um, I would have been spared a lot of like anxiety and turmoil and doubt and all of that stuff. Because I remember even when I got the audition for Grey's, I said, there's no possible way I can ever be on this show. And that's what I felt in my body when I sent in the tape. And so I do think it's important to put people in positions where they can um, give other people the idea that it's possible, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Right.
So that being said, we were talking very specifically about sexual orientation.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to gender identity or being transgender, I believe in my whole heart that that should only go to transgender people. I don't want to
Yes.
see a straight actor or a
or actress.
non-trans
Yeah,
actor.
stop
Yeah, I
it.
don't want to see a non-trans actor play a trans actor ever again. And that even goes to like even like I find it weird. I'll get sent auditions for people who are gender non-binary, and I'll turn them down. And I know that that's a little bit maybe more of a murky gray area, but I just feel like give it to someone who is gender non-binary,
Yeah.
or someone who is gender queer or something like that. And then you move on to the topic of race. Absolutely not. Never again should there ever be like vastly different races playing different races. Like it makes no sense.
Yeah.
No sense whatsoever. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel about that.
What season of Drag Race are you watching?
I'm on season 12, which is the last like complete season of Drag Race, and I've been binging it for the past like 2 months, so I'm like almost there.
Who are you fanning out on right now?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm afraid to say because I feel like these comments might spoil it, but
How
I
long has
kind
it
of
been
love
out,
Gigi
though?
Good. Like a while.
Yeah,
I
everyone should
know
have
I need to
watched this
catch
by
up.
now. If you care to watch Drag Race.
You know what I'll say? I'll use one of the queens from previous seasons. I love Alaska. I love, let's see, who else do I love? Oh my gosh,
Shea
now I feel like I'm being,
Coulee.
oh yeah, Shea Coulee. Well, I gotta say my girl Nina West because we're from Columbus and she's also just a fantastic queen and also about like representation and pushing the Dow forward for our community. Yeah, I just love this show so much.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to say that I believe there will be a former drag racer making an appearance.
Really?
And I'm not going to say any more than that
Oh my God.
because that's secret. But I also don't know for sure if it's happening, but I was told it was
Yes,
happening
yes.
and I lost my goddamn shit.
Oh my God, I would freak out. I would freak
Oh yeah.
out.
I'll
Oh, I
text you
can't
later
wait.
and tell you who it is.
Yes, please. Anyway, how have you been?
I'm
Are
good.
you
I'm
good?
good. I'm good. I'm like, shooting with all the new protocols is nuts. We talked a little bit
Yes.
about this. But it's crazy for a group of people who like genuinely likes being around each other to not be able
hmm
to be around each other is really hard.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very hard.
and uh and it's very sort of regimented and like, and so it's scary. It's all very new. It feels like
Yeah.
a new way to work, a new type of job, and it's exhausting. But we're getting through it, and I think we're finding really fun ways to like loosen up and still like hold on to the joy in
Yeah.
it. And so we hope that the product ends up.
Oh, it will. I mean, I feel like they've already, like, I saw the little trailer for Grays that came out today, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening, and it looks like so good. And
I'm
oh, I
so
can't
excited
wait.
too. You
But
guys like
yes, it
that?
is a very different environment,
Yeah.
and it's been interesting. Oh, I hope I get to come over and hang out with you guys on Station 19. That would be
Me
so fun.
too. Me
We'll
too. I
see.
hope that there are crossovers. I hope they abound. I know that it's
Yes.
not everyone's favorite thing, but you know what? It's our favorite thing.
Yes, and that's
So
all that really matters, right?
so let us have a little bit of
Are
joy
we
here and
having
there.
fun? Oh my gosh. Well, this was wonderful.
This
Thank you
was
so
wonderful.
much again for giving this platform to us. And I've learned so much by watching your videos. I hope that everybody else has. We're talking about hashtag 19for20. You guys go to Barrett's page and watch them all because how many have there been now? Like 12, 13,
15.
15. So there's so many different things that you guys can learn. So go over to her page. Her and Jason George started this, and it's so good. So thank you for giving us this week,
Thank
and
you for
it's
giving us
been
this week because
wonderful.
this was
Yes,
absolutely Jake's week and his topic, and I'm so happy that you chose it. I'm so glad we got to take at least 1 week and devote it entirely to LGBTQIA plus
yes,
identities. And I absolutely love you. And hopefully you'll hear from me soon, because I'm going to text you anyway, because I got some
Yes. Oh
insider
my God.
info for you.
I'll call you after this. I got to get the goods.
Yeah. And then,
Okay.
yeah. All right. That's it. We love you guys. Thank you for
Love
watching.
you. Bye, guys. Let us know if you have any more questions. Mwah.
Talk to you in a few minutes, Jake.
All right. Bye.
Bye.